things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Multiverse broadcasting system initiated.
Lasers.
Multiverse connection established.
Lasers.
Hello.
Multiverse connection secure.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Oz.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret cave, hidden deep within the wilderness. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live across the multiverse from a secret cave hidden deep within the wilderness of Tennessee. That's right. We're ripping through the electromagnetic soup, tearing through the atmosphere, and tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Thursday, September 16th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to cover a requested topic. Our friend My Life DIY suggested we do ghost trains. And as long as I've been sitting on this, it's about time we get this out. I finally found the information I was looking for to present such a topic. That was not an easy task, but ghost trains tonight, September 16th, 2021 on the Dark Wolf's Den radio show. But first, we're going to go ahead and give a quick shout out to the chat rooms on both the Dark Wolf's Den Show YouTube channel as well as the Ripon Rabbit Hole YouTube channel. So if you're listening worldwide, definitely come on over and check us out on those channels. There's lots of people over there to interact and have fun with. So let's see what you guys are saying over there in the chat. Michael Fontaine, congratulations being the first in the chat room tonight, says, I know nothing, LOL. Well, the first way to learn something is to admit that you know nothing, right? Welcome, Michael. Sandy B in the house. I understand that your significant other very, very much likes trains. That's one of the reasons that My Life suggested this topic, so I'm really excited to present that tonight. Excuse me. My voice trying to go out a little bit here. Throat messing with me. Don't you love it when the throat decides to mess with you at the worst time, right? Man, Danny Mull in the house. Glad to see you, man. Danny Mull. Raider champion in the house. Glad to have you here, bud. Terry Taggart, hello Terry, always a pleasure. Errol Taylor in the house says, hi folks. Hi Errol Taylor, glad to have you here. Who else we got here? Looks like everybody's chatting away. Glad to see everyone tonight. It's always a pleasure. Over in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room, we got Sandy B on the top of the list over here. Says, no one here yet, waiting for the ghost train to pass through. Yeah, that's about the best time to wait for one when there's nobody else around, right? So I'm in chat and it says 0. Thought I was more than a 0. Yeah, YouTube's a little bit goofy. I also like what you said over here just a moment ago in the Ripon Rabbit Hole chat. Sandy says, usually haunted trains are haunted because of accidents that they were in and there were fatalities. That is so very true, Sandy. Most times in hauntings we find that to be the case. That it is a sudden traumatic event that brings those on. Michael Fontaine also in the Dark Wolf's Den chat over there shouting out, hey Michael, always glad to see you. You guys, glad you're jumping back and forth between the two chat rooms. That's always awesome to see too. X Jen in the house says, I'm in chats, not working working for me, I think. Chat is working just fine over here, XGen. I can see you loud and clear. JoJo's with the Hearts in the Dark Wolf's Den show chat, and Euler Greg says hi. Hi, Euler Greg. Always a pleasure to have you guys. And before we start diving deep into this topic tonight, we have two more fun little segments to cover. The first of which we call Today in History. On this day in 1983, Arnold Schwarzenegger becomes a U.S. citizen. And just a couple weeks ago, he proved that he does not deserve said citizenship by stating that anybody who doesn't get a experiment done on them can screw their freedoms. So just as much as he became an American citizen in 1993, in 2021 he proved he doesn't deserve to be called an American, at least not in my opinion. But he became an American citizen on this day in 1983, and that is today's episode of Today in History. Yeah, it's really sad because I actually liked Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? I liked a lot of his movies, a lot of his acting. It's kind of pathetic that he would go and do something like that, but you never know, people, right? And I call out people a lot like that, and a lot of people ask me why I do what I do. Why do I put so much passion and time into what I believe in? I'm just one person. Well, that actually brings us to our quote of the day today.
Say what?
Our quote today comes from an Irish statesman, economist, and philosopher, Edmund Burke. He says, and I quote, "Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little." End quote. And that right there really sums it up. Everybody says all the time, even one person can make a difference. Well, absolutely. Because if you don't try, you're definitely not going to make a difference at all. So I thought there was only a little I could do with iMac. Turns out we've become a lot bigger. This radio show, I can only do a little, but that little bit may help sway the large bit later, right? My little voice may have more impact than I could ever know. Anyway, that is today's episode of...
Say what?
What a great quote there, I gotta say. I really like that one. Quite inspirational, right? And have you guys ever been on a train? I actually had the chance a couple months ago to travel a train across the country, and I very, very much enjoyed it. I didn't see any ghost trains on my particular trip. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not quite sure on that one. I think I'd have been quite excited if I did, but I did not see any ghost trains. However, there are many, many stories of people who see trains that are not there. And I don't mean hallucinating, I mean straight up ghost trains on the tracks. And that's what we're going to cover tonight. A lot of these are considered urban legends, but a lot of us here know urban legends are usually based on a lot more truth than not, right? And we're going to start right now digging into these ghost train stories.
Train rides are great, in my opinion. I rarely take the train, but I still prefer it to flying anywhere. There's something cozy about it, and you can just go to sleep, read a book, listen to music, look at the passing scenery like you're in a movie. It's pretty great.
And I second all of that. If you've ever been on a train, you'll know it is absolutely very much cozy, very relaxing. You got a lot more room to stretch out. I would definitely suggest anybody who has not taken a train ride, if you ever get the chance, definitely do it. Just for the fact that you can say you've been on a train, but it is a very, very comfortable way to travel.
But trains also have a lot of history to them. Legends surrounding people who have jumped on the tracks, trains that seem to be running that aren't truly real, and let's not forget that being near railway tracks at night is just spooky in and of itself.
Now, that I will not disagree with. I spent upwards of 12 hours waiting on one of the trains that I had to wait on, and a lot of that time went into the nighttime. And I will agree, being around some of those tracks at night by yourself is Pretty friggin' spooky, I gotta say.
The haunted tracks. Now this one's an urban legend originating from San Antonio, Texas. Back in the 1940s, there was a school bus full of children going towards an intersection when it stalled on the tracks. The bus driver was rushing trying to get the children off the bus, but he wasn't quick enough and a speeding train ended up hurtling into the bus, killing the bus driver and 10 of the children. After the accident, it's said that if any car stops near the tracks, many unseen hands will push it across the tracks to safety. And obviously a lot of people have speculated it's the hands of the children who died in the accident pushing these cars to safety to try and save them from the fate that they themselves suffered.
And I can tell you we have a local legend of a bridge called Ghost Bridge. And that's pretty much the exact same legend. There were school bus of kids that were killed there, and they will push your vehicle from the back if you leave it setting on the bridge. Really intriguing story, but is there any evidence of this one?
People have even covered their bumpers with flour or baby powder and have seen their fingerprints on the car itself. However, as nice as the story is, there is no official record of the accident ever taking place, yet locals claim it did definitely happen. Anyone from San Antonio confirm or deny? Let me know.
And once again, they have the same story here that the children will leave their fingerprints in flour or baby powder or whatever kind of dust would be on the car bumper. Very intriguing story. I've not personally seen anything of that nature, but I'm sure not opposed. But what do you guys think? Have you heard this legend in your local area? Do you have a story like this? Do you think it's real? Go ahead, put a 1 in the chat room if you think this is a real story of kids that save people from the train. Go ahead, put a 2 if you think no, there's too many versions of that. I'm going to say that's false. Or put a 3 in the chat room if you're just absolutely not sure either way. And we're going to move on to our next story.
The Little Girl. Now this story takes place in North Road railway station located in southern Durham in England. The station opened its doors in 1842 and its far platform is currently home to a third-class carriage that was built in 1865. Inside this carriage, many have seen a young girl dressed in Victorian clothes, and she's usually in the far right compartment at the back of the carriage. I feel like that's too specific for it to be a lie, you know what I mean? Staff at the station have frequently heard noises coming from the carriage, like sounds of a child laughing and singing, but every time they've checked inside, it's been empty. In 2008, a staff member even reported he had heard knocking from inside the carriage. He went inside to check and found it empty. But as soon as he went to the waiting room, the bang and knocking sound started up again.
And yet another extremely creepy stories of ghosts on a train. But we're going to get into the actual ghost trains themselves here in just a moment. But let's see what you guys said on that last story of the children pushing the cars from the ghost train, right? Remember, it was 1 if you think that's real, 2 if you think it's fake, and 3 if you're unsure. And remember, there is no right or wrong answer. This is all merely your opinion. Let's see what you guys said over there in the chat. And it looks like we got XGen says Dark Wolf's Den Show is the lady speaking Rebecca Felgate. No, I loved Rebecca. She left most amazing top 10. That is actually Ayman Hassan. She does a lot of really good ones too. I like her style. Errol Taylor says 3. Not quite sure on that one. That's fair enough, Errol Taylor. Earth Daughter also with the 3. A lot of 3s coming in tonight. XGen with the 1. Absolutely real. Man, Danny Mall with a nice series of emojis. Terry Taggart 3, of course. Of course, Terry Taggart. We expect nothing less than that from Miss Terry, right? Every now and then she surprises us with a 1 or a 2. But she likes to be very open-minded on the fence over there with the 3, with Raider Champion sitting next to her with a 3.4. He's more than unsure. Michael Fontaine says Fufu Dust 3. Sandy B with the 3. A lot of 3s across the board over here, man. Danny Mo with the 3. All of that in the Ripon Rabbit Hole YouTube chat room. And JoJo's over here in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room says Choo Choo with the 3. Not quite sure. And you know, that's fair. Like I said, there is no right or wrong answer. Okay, so now we have heard 2 stories so far of ghosts on trains, but what about actual trains that are ghosts? That's what you guys really tuned in to hear, right? Well, I've got a story just for you.
My question to you is, can an event be so traumatic and so awful that the energy is absorbed by the land around it? I mean, we've heard this theory when it comes to battlefields, but what about something like a train wreck?
And of course, in the State of Mystery series, like the one we did yesterday, a lot of times we have battlefields come up, and that is one thing we have learned across these shows, is battlefields are one of the most haunted of all areas. The trauma and the amount of negative tension and negative psychic energy that is layered within these battlefields, as well as the amount of blood on these battlefields, definitely makes for a lot of haunting situations that we have learned. But can something like that happen in, say, a train wreck, right? And I mean a literal train wreck, not, Washington. Sorry, couldn't resist.
So I heard about the ghost train of Boston Bridge a couple years ago. One of my team members, Jenny, was telling me about this haunted bridge near Statesville. You may know I do a lot of research and a lot of work at the Trivia Clinic, which is in Hamptonville, North Carolina, and Statesville's not that far away. It's always come up, and people have asked me if I've explored this bridge, and I'll be honest, I haven't. Back in July, I decided to put up a Facebook post about it. I did some research. I was traumatized by what I read about this horrific train accident, and also the event that happened decades later, actually over a century later. For some reason, this past week, the post absolutely blew up. I mean, I have over 150,000 reach on it, over 500 likes, over 1,000 shares. I mean, it's crazy. There's really something about this story that resonates with people. So if you're not familiar with the story of the train wreck or the ghost train, the phantom train of Boston Bridge, I'm going to tell you right now.
That's right. You guys ready? You ladies and gentlemen ready to hear about the phantom train of Boston Bridge? This is Alex Matsuo, M-A-T-S-U-O. She is a paranormal researcher, a historian, a all-around great researcher. She does a lot of great work. If you're interested in her work and in paranormal research, definitely check her channel out. Once again, this is Alex Matsuo, M-A-T-S-U-O. And she's going to tell us about the phantom train of Boston Bridge. Let's take a listen to this case file.
On August 27th, 1891, there was a passenger train in North Carolina that was running late, and it was trying to make up for lost time. And the train was pulling 6 cars. I also heard it was 7 cars. The train was pulling a baggage car, second-class car, first-class car, a tender, a Pullman sleeper, and a private car for the superintendent. So there was a lot of people on this train. It departed Statesville, North Carolina around 2:30 in the morning, and it was already running about 34 minutes late, so it was already trying to make up for lost time. And literally, just 5 minutes later, the train lurched off of Boston Bridge. Like, it just flew off. In fact, the cars went airborne, and it fell 60 feet and hit the creek below, which is Third Creek. And another note of how fast this train was going, the sleeper car actually hit 153 feet away from where it left the bridge.
That had to be one incredibly fast-moving train. That is an amazing accident. I don't even know what to say. That 150 plus foot the car was flung just due to the speed of the train. This was clearly not a little fender bender by any means.
So survivors ended up walking, running, limping, going back to Statesville and reporting that there was an accident. And this is oddly beautiful, but the entire town of Statesville dedicated itself to the recovery and rescue of the survivors of this train crash. Like, they literally had to cut people out of the wreckage. And in total, I've seen numbers between 20 to 23 people died, and then 30 people were injured. And some people weren't even harmed. And if people didn't die from the crash, they actually drowned in the creek waters because the creek was so high. And Statesville didn't have a hospital at this time, so the injured were actually taken into the private homes of the locals, and then the dead were taken to the local tobacco warehouse where they could be identified. I mean, it's insane.
And this incident only goes from bad to even worse.
And the crazy thing is when the news spread of this awful accident, thousands of people gathered just to watch or they were trying to go through the wreckage. I guess they were trying to look for souvenirs. Artists came and drew pictures of the wreck. And there was one photographer that managed to take photos of the accident, and that was William Jasper Stimson. And the pictures that you're going to see here in this video were the photos taken by him. And as far as we know, there are no other actual photographs of this incident.
So this tragic event, this train crash that killed so many people, basically became a spectacle to these people, looking for souvenirs and painting pictures of the incident, and really not the right way that this should have been handled by any means.
I mean, it seems like this was a really disrespectful way to handle the situation. Hey, let's go to this horrific train accident and gawk at the wreckage. Or, hey, let's go through the wreckage and see if we can find something. Like, what? I'm sure you're wondering, what caused this accident? So investigators found out that there were rail spikes removed from the tracks. But other people blamed the R&D Railroad, saying that the rail track was poorly maintained at the time. Now, they did manage to charge and convict 2 men of the accident, and this was based on apparent testimony that they told to their fellow inmates. So, as you could see, this was a terrible, terrible accident. Honestly, this train wreck hasn't been forgotten, but not for reasons that you think. It seems that this tragic event replays itself every year on the anniversary of the accident, which is August 27th.
So this clearly sounds like a stone tape case, a replaying of an event over and over and over in time, or outside of time, really. An event that was so tragic, so deadly, and so horrible and emotionally charged that it got locked into the surrounding areas, whether it be the stone or concrete or metal or wood or whatever the case might be. It's called stone tape theory because basically it's the idea that the stone records whatever's going on and replays it. This one plays out on a particular night every year, the night of the accident. So very, very intriguing. And with the desecration they did to this site originally, during the accident, I'm not surprised that this would be its fate.
The first sighting dates back to 1941. Now, I couldn't really find a name associated with this story, so it could very well just be legend. But in 1941, there was a couple that had a flat tire, and they were right next to the bridge. The husband left the wife behind so he could find help, and while she was waiting, she heard the train whistle, and she actually saw the headlights of a train coming onto the bridge, and then she heard the crash. Not only did she hear the crash, but she saw the train, it was an old train, according to her. She saw the train plummet to the creek below, and she could hear the screams and the moans of the wounded. And she even crossed the street and went down to the creek, and she saw everything with her own eyes. And then she saw a car approaching. She ran back up the hill and she waved the car down, and it was actually her husband coming back with help. And she said, "There's been a train accident." And so the wife, the husband, and the gentleman that was helping them went over to the bridge and looked down, and there was nothing. And what's interesting is the husband and the man think that maybe the wife had dreamed about it. But even if she was dreaming about it, that's a very specific dream at that specific spot.
So it is a good possibility that the lady was just sensitive enough to witness this thing from the spirit world. However, that's not the only story.
Once the husband and wife were back on the road, the wife asked, "Hey, can we stop at the train station in Statesville?" They did, and they went up to the ticket booth and they talked to the ticket attendant. The wife asked, "Hey, was there a train accident tonight?" And the ticket attendant said, "Funny you should say that. There wasn't a train accident tonight, but there was one 50 years ago." And he explained the details of the wreck, and apparently the wife screamed and fainted. So she had truly seen the ghost train of Boston Bridge. And with the Facebook post that I had mentioned earlier, of all the comments I was looking at, I was really intrigued by firsthand witnesses, people who live in Statesville or they work in Statesville, and they shared their personal stories of driving near that area, and they could hear phantom train whistles when there's not supposed to be a train. They've also heard moaning, they've heard screaming, they've heard grinding on the railroad tracks. And they've also seen a phantom light waving back and forth on the bridge. And witnesses have also seen the ghost of a railroad employee. I mean, the guy's wearing a uniform, and apparently this spirit, this man has a golden clock. And apparently he was first seen on the first anniversary of the accident. Now, many have speculated that this is the spirit of the baggage master. His name was Hugh K. Linster, and sadly he did die on the night of the Boston Bridge train wreck. They actually found him with a broken neck.
So it's no surprise that he would be haunting. Once again, we have this sudden traumatic death. The spirit not even probably realizing that it's even passed to another side yet. You know, we don't know how much of that works. I'm going to go ahead and talk really, really fast and see if Earth Daughter can keep up, or if anybody can keep up. No, I know Earth Daughter said I'm talking really fast because she's got me playing on 1.75 speed. I can imagine I'm almost chipmunk-like over there. Michael Fontaine says his boys live in Statesville, North Carolina. Awesome. So he actually has a connection over to this particular case file. Cindy Ann Savage says, hello, DW and Tribe from Athens, Georgia, USA. Hello, Cindy Ann Savage, and welcome. Glad to have you here with us also.
In the wreckage. So this is a very specific event that seems to happen each year on the anniversary of the accident. However, am I going to recommend that you go check this out? Go to Statesville and park your car, cross the street, trespass across people's backyards, and hang out on a live active railroad track? I am not recommending this.
And in the name of safety and in good conscience, I also cannot recommend to do such a thing. But if you are a paranormal researcher and you are interested in some paranormal activity, I'm not saying to go do it. I am saying that this is one to choose from. And we've got a lot more information to go. We are getting ready to come up on the break here, but we have a couple more phantom train stories to go over in the second half. Once again, this is a suggested topic. Thank you, My Life DIY, for this suggestion of phantom and ghost trains. It's something I would have never thought of, and it's something you don't really think of until you see, right? And we're going to see even more of these in the second half. But that music means we've got to go ahead and take a network break. And my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you're listening to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. We'll be right back with the second half after these messages. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Oh yeah, a long train running, a ghost train. Hi everyone, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's Dark Wolf's Den show with host Jerry Hicks? I know I am. If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of common sense radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. I'll return tomorrow night for one night this weekend, Friday, September 17th. Join me at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as we dive down the rabbit hole in exploration of cloning. Right, from cloning plants to cloning animals to even cloning humans. You won't want to miss it tomorrow night, Friday, September 17th. Starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as all shows do. I'm going to have some special announcements for our community over at riponrabbithole.com tomorrow night. Some new things that we're working on, some new stuff we're going to be launching. You'll want to tune in and find out about that. If you haven't done so already, you also want to hop on over to riponrabbithole.com. There you can check out the VIP Pass. It's absolutely free to sign up for. It's going to give you unfiltered access down the rabbit hole to where the conversation continues after the show in our community-generated press. Now, you can also find out the entire schedule posted every Wednesday around noon under Listen Live or riponrabbithole.com/live. it's on that schedule. You will find out that I am only going to be here Friday night. Jerry is going to end the weekend outright together with you, both Saturday and Sunday nights, right? Saturday, September 18th, another State of Mystery. Join Jerry in the Dark Wolf's Den radio show as he howls at the state of Illinois. And then he'll end out the weekend right together with you. Sunday night, September 19th, starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as all shows do. He's going to be doing an entire show on the Mandela effect. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Unfortunately, I'll be away this weekend to a place that I know I tried to do shows from before, and it just doesn't work. The internet just fails. So I will return next weekend again on my regular scheduled nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But my top hat's off to Jerry Hicks for holding down the Rabbit Forts and Dark Wolf's Den all weekend long, bringing you 2 more Dark Wolf's Dens to howl through the weekend. We'll return to tonight's Dark Wolf's Den show, Ghost Train, for Thursday, September 16th, 2021. You're listening to the Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. I've been loaded like a ghost train, flying like an aeroplane.
Reestablishing multiverse connection. Connection reestablished and secure.
This is My Life DIY, and
Hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light,
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
to Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Thursday, September the 16th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us tonight, we are discussing ghost trains or phantom trains of the railways. And in the first half, we've already covered a couple different ghosts, from ghost of train riders and conductors to ghost of the trains themselves, and the haunting of Bastion Bridge in North Carolina as one instance. And now we're going to go to the phantom train of Dunmore, ladies and gentlemen. There are actually a couple few of these you may not have heard of. Like I said, I hadn't heard of these until I started doing this episode, so huge shout out for this topic once again to My Life DIY for the suggestion. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, the phantom train of Dunmore.
Like many towns in Alberta's Wild West, Medicine Hat owes its existence to the railway that runs like an artery through the beating heart of the city.
I gotta say, I really do love the name of that town, Medicine Hat. I mean, that's just a cool name for a place.
But hidden deep within our history lies a local legend, the tale of the Phantom Locomotive.
Basically, 2 men working for the CPR, an engineer and a fireman, were on moving an engine from Medicine Hat out to Dunmore to pick up some cars one night.
And of course it's dark and you don't expect anything to be coming at you, but they saw another train with a light as big as a wagon wheel coming towards them. And they weren't sure if they should jump off or pull the brakes, and they were just fearing for their lives, when all of a sudden the train passes by them on the other side and the crew waves to them.
They both kind of shrugged it off, didn't talk about it.
And of course, just one instance, one could easily convince themselves that, no, maybe they were mistaken, right? Or maybe not.
Then a few nights later, the exact same thing happened. And having seen it twice, one of the men was quite distracted by it and didn't want to go onto the rails for a little while. So he took some work in the CPR rail yards while the other man continued to work on the trains.
The fireman is working in the yard when he gets the news that two trains collided.
I believe it was July 8th, 1908, the two trains collided. One of the men who had seen the ghost train was killed in the accident. So years later, the second man who had not been on the train because he had taken the yard work told the story of how he and his coworker had seen this ghost train, and he determined it was a premonition of things to come.
Ooh, perhaps it had been a premonition and not a phantom haunting, right? But is there any evidence to suggest the validity of this?
What makes this particular ghost story all the more scary is that there is indeed some truth to the tale. The fact remains that 9 lives were lost in the accident that may or may not be the aftermath of a ghostly apparition.
July 1908, there indeed was a train accident. We looked up on the Medicine Hat News microfilm. There was an accident, and there is visual evidence of it.
Some sources even say you can hear the phantom train whistle still to this day. In Medicine Hat, I'm Rob Sparks.
What an incredible story, right? And what do you guys think? We know that there was a train accident. We know there was a report of a phantom train afterwards. So what do you guys think? Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat room if you think that, yep, it's absolutely a phantom train on the tracks to what they've seen. Go ahead and put a 2 if you think, no, they're very much mistaken. There's no such thing as a phantom train. And go ahead and put a 3 if you're just absolutely unsure either way. And while we're waiting for that to come in, let's get into the story of the train of Atchison.
On August 29th, 1882, this story ran in the Atchison Daily Globe, featuring a train engineer with an eerie tale. While on a recent run late at night, he saw a phantom engine coming around a curve. He also saw an engineer looking out the window of that train. It was a man he knew well, Britt Kraft.
So far it sounds a little creepy. We've got a phantom train, end quote, and an engineer that seen somebody running the train that he recognized, so can't be that strange, right?
But the problem with what that engineer saw, Britt Kraft was dead, killed a few weeks earlier and buried in this Atchison cemetery. But on his grave marker, a clue to explain what his friends saw. The fading message here: honor to the dead who died to save others.
Well, being that the friend that he recognized is actually dead, that makes it a lot more creepy, right?
Running his train on that summer night, Britt Kraft came around a bend to see the bridge he was about to cross on fire. While too late to stop the entire train, he brought the engine to a stop on the burning bridge, knowing he wouldn't survive the fire, but that his passengers would escape. Kraft became a hero, a legend, who may have wanted one more ride. His fellow engineer who saw that phantom had no doubt, saying, "I have seen the ghost of Britt Kraft's engine."
And yet, once again, an incredibly creepy story. Speaking of creepy, let's see what you guys said about that last creepy story that we had about the phantom train. 1, if you believe it was a phantom train. 2, if you believe they were mistaken. And 3, if you were unsure. Let's see what you guys said over there in the chat. And in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat room, I got JoJo's over here with the 1. Absolutely, that is a real phantom train that they seen. Michael Fontaine, however, on the other end of the spectrum, I'd say 3. I need to see it, and that's fair. Michael Fontaine, gotta love a good bit of skepticism for sure. Oiler Greg says, yeah, I know. That's a tricky one, eh? Raider Champion 1.3, pretty sure. Maybe not, but pretty sure. Earth Daughter with a 3, unsure. Not quite sure, scratching the chin there. Sandy B1 for sure, absolutely. That was a ghost train. Terry Taggart with a 3. Most expectedly, I love it. And man, Danny Mull sitting right beside her on the fence with that 3 also. X-Gen 1, definitely a phantom train, says X-Gen. I absolutely am a 3 on this one. I'm on the fence. I'm not 100 that it is a phantom train. It is a really, really creepy story. If it is, then it would have to be, right? But I'm definitely on the fence on this one. I am not 100% sure either way. Always open-minded and skeptical, for sure. And it looks like that's all. I just want to make sure we didn't have any late comers there. And I'm glad I waited around just a second there. Errol Taylor with the 3, also on the fence with the not so sure, loving it. We got a couple of friends over there hanging on the fence tonight. That was a pretty 3-filled decision there. A couple 1s in there and lots of 3s across the board. I'm actually surprised by those numbers. Not quite the turnout I expected. I love it. Yeah, like I said, I got what, 1, 2, 3, 4 of us sitting over on that 3 fence. You gotta love it. And before we close it out tonight, we have one more story. This is a really well-known one. You guys know I'm not much for displaying these really well-known stories, but this is one that I could not resist. This is an Italian train that went into a tunnel and never came out the other side. However, it was spotted at different times, if you will, in places that it should have never been. This is the story of the phantom time-traveling train. Once again, known to be an urban legend, but let's do our own research and make our own decision. What do you guys say? Here is the case file of the phantom train of Italy.
Imagine traveling on a train that is actually a time machine that would never bring you back.
Sounds kind of like the Back to the Future train, right? The time-traveling train in, part 3, I think that was? But in all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, this is an incredibly odd story.
The 106 passengers and crew of the Zanetti train probably would have thought twice before they embarked on their adventure had they known that. Just like the passengers of the Titanic, which set off for its first and last cruise almost a year later, they never reached their destination. The difference, though, is that no one knows what happened to the train. On July 14, 1911, the rail company Zanetti offered well-off Italians a free trial ride on their new train. The passengers were enjoying their ride, watching scenic views along the way, making small talk, and enjoying their refreshments. One of the sights they were looking forward to was a new tunnel that went through a mountain. It was one of the longest ever built at the time. And that's where the mystery begins. The train entered the half-mile-long tunnel in Lombardy Mountain and never came out. Just disappeared.
You heard that right. It entered the tunnel on one side, and yet it never made it out of the other side. That something in the middle happened, and the train literally just vanished in a trick that would give David Copperfield chills.
After the incident, the railway workers and police searched every square foot of it, but found no trace of the train. The tunnel itself was just a long tube. There was nowhere to go but to the other side, yet there was neither a train nor any signs of a crash there. However, there were 2 passengers found who had jumped off the train just before it vanished into the tunnel.
And the story they tell is incredibly wild.
Later, when they came to, they were able to tell the story of their eerie trip. As the train approached the tunnel, black smoke came out of nowhere, as well as a dense white fog. The train slowed down as it was nearing the entrance, and the fog began to envelop it. The men panicked and jumped to the ground before the train was gone. One of the survivors told an Italian newspaper about the incident. "I heard an unclear humming sound. Beyond the black smoke, I could see a milky white fog creeping from the tunnel It literally swallowed the train like a wave, and with it, the first car of our ill-fated train split open. It became so horrifying. The train was barely moving, so I jumped from the car, and my eyes caught another passenger who jumped at the same time. We both hit the ground hard, and that is the last thing I remember. The injured men suffered from sleeping troubles and other stress disorders for a while. As for the train, it was never seen again. Word spread about the tunnel, and officials thought it was best to close it. Then, the notorious tunnel happened to get bombed during World War II, closing it off forever. No one could come up with a sound explanation for this strange disappearance. Dozens had witnessed the train leaving the station in Rome and entering the tunnel, but nobody saw it come out.
At least nobody in that time frame. However, there were reports of this same train in locations where there were no tracks leading there. Let's put it like that. There's no way the train could have been in these locations. Check this out.
But that's not the last time we'd hear about the mysterious train. There are records of medieval monks from Medina who saw a 3-car train with people in it. How could they conceive a huge iron machine puffing clouds of black smoke? A horse was the fastest means of transport at the time. Railroads hadn't been invented yet. Well, they thought it, along with the passengers who they described were clean-shaven and dressed in black. All must be the work of some evil forces. You can say that medieval monks made it up. But here's the thing. Their report was kept in the records of Castasolia, stored by the Sagino family, and one of the survivors of the train had the name Sagino.
But that would not be the last time that the train was seen.
Then, in the 1840s, there's a report that the Zanetti passengers were seen in Mexico. A psychiatrist in a local hospital left notes saying that a group of 104 Italians were all admitted in a hysterical state. They were all dressed in strange clothes, obviously from a different place, and claimed they were traveling from Rome by a Zanetti train. One of the passengers actually had a cigarette box with a future date of 1907 on it. They say it is still kept in a Mexican museum. The psychiatrist concluded that it was a case of mass insanity, but he failed to come up with any explanation for it. There are no records left of the patients after that. Many years later, the train appeared again in Europe. On October 29, 1955, a 3-car old-fashioned train appeared not far from Zavalichi, a small village in Ukraine. The signalman, Pyotr Yustemenko, saw it moving soundlessly. He reported that he had been on duty that night and suddenly saw a train that wasn't on the schedule. The train was heading without tracks to Gasford Mountain. He thought he was seeing things and rubbed his eyes, but there it was, with shut curtains, open doors, and an empty driver's cabin. Ustemenko had never seen a train like that before, but he knew it was old, definitely a pre-war model. The description he gave was the same as that of the Zanetti. It's unlikely a signalman from a remote town in the USSR would know anything about an Italian train lost at the beginning of the 20th century. Another interesting note about this sighting is that at the end of the 19th century, there was an Italian cemetery built on Gasford Mountain near Sevastopol. About 2,000 Italian soldiers who died during the Crimean War were buried there. Later, a railroad from Balaclava was constructed over the former cemetery, but then was destroyed after the Revolution of 1917.
And what I find the most interesting is that there's actually a scientific explanation put forth for why or how this may have happened.
Some believe all the railroads in the world form a sort of connected web that has its own magnetic field. The trains serve as electric conductors between the Earth's natural magnetic field and the artificial one. The conflict between the two forces creates fractures in time with endless holes. This explanation is based on Einstein's theory of relativity and Minkowski's definition of distance. These fractures are called chronal holes. Sometime before the Zanetti train left the station, there had been an earthquake where the tracks were. It's believed the crust fracture, which appeared under Lombardy Mountain, created a time anomaly at the entrance to the tunnel. The train became the link necessary to dig through time and space, and it fell from its time vector where it belonged and could move to other times. So, in layman's terms, it was traveling through time.
So what do you guys think? Do you think perhaps the Zanetti train is traveling to this day through the annals of time? We know with things like the Mandela effect and a lot of different strange time issues and time manipulation issues that we've seen in the paranormal, that it's not outside of the realm of possibility, right? Especially when you factor in that possible scientific explanation, which seems quite sensible to me, right? But in the end, ladies and gentlemen, all you can do is look at the evidence, apply a little common sense, and
you be the judge.
That's right, Bubby. You be the judge. Anyways, folks, we got to close it out. That's right. That's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Thursday, September 16th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the den may be closing, but don't you worry. The weekend fun has only just begun. It is a Wild Wolf weekend here on Ripon Common Sense Radio this weekend, because we are doing not only last night and tonight, we'll also be doing Saturday and Sunday, but we'll get into that here in just a moment. It turns out that tomorrow, Friday, September 17th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit will take to the airwaves with an episode of the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. That's right. On this episode, he's going to be talking about cloning. That's right. Human cloning, sheep cloning. There's been so much advancement in that field, and a lot of it we don't hear about due to other situations in the news. So our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit will fill us in on all that information on Friday, tomorrow, September 17th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. All shows here on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, that's right. And then on Saturday, September 18th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, I'll be back with an all-new episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Radio Show. On Saturday, we're going to be talking about the state of mystery of Illinois. That's right, we're going to double up and do a twofer this week on the Dark Wolf's Den shows. We're going to cover all the paranormal of Illinois, from the cryptids to the UFOs to the ghosts and everything that we can dig up along the way, right? That is on Saturday, September 18th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then on Sunday, September 19th, 2021, I will be back to round the weekend out right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network. Not only do I get to kick the weekend off right this weekend, I get to round it out also, and I love it. We're going to round this week out with an episode about the Mandela effect. Ooh, we haven't talked about that in a while on this channel. As you guys know, that is one of my all-time favorite paranormal topics, and we may very well have a special guest joining us on that night. More information to come as we continue on through the weekend. And that's going to close out the weekend here on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network. And if you miss any shows at all, make sure you go over to the riponrabbithole.com and catch them all on demand. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. That's right. Over there, you're going to find a load of fun things to do. First, you need to sign up for your 24/7 Backstage Pass. That is quick and easy to do. It only costs a little bit of your time. It is absolutely free aside from that. And that's going to give you access to the rest of the entire website. And on that website, you're going to find things like our Down the Rabbit Hole section. This is our social media section over there. We've got groups and forums, and we've got a wall over there to post your information in. Speaking of the groups, I created a group recently called the Convention of States. This is a grassroots movement that I fully believe in, letting the states take the power back from our corrupted government. That is one of the groups that I would definitely suggest you go over there and check out and sign the petition in. Otherwise, there's also many other paranormal styled groups, from ghosts to UFOs to the Mandela effect and much, much more. Also, while you're over there, stop into the 24/7 Backstage Lounge, my favorite hangout, where I'm headed here in just a couple moments right after the show. That's where a lot of us rabbits hang out, and where the conversation continues well after the show, because for you guys, the conversation's in here, but for the Ripon Rabbits, the conversation is just beginning over on the RiponRabbitHole.com. Once again, that is RiponRabbitHole.com. That's right, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got to get out of here tonight and let AJ take it over tomorrow. On that note, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as Dark Wolf, and you've been listening to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network. On behalf of AJ the Ripon Rabbit, Chick Mandela Effect, Walt House, Michael Musco, our amazing mod teams, both in the Ripon Common Sense Radio YouTube, as well as the Dark Wolf's Den YouTube, as well as Tom Bayless for this incredible music we're listening to right now. Get down with it, Tom. That's right, Tom Bayless, ladies and gentlemen, in Red Shed Studios. If you need a custom soundtrack for your next project, make sure you check out Red Shed Studios. Links in the description. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all these folks, once again, my name is Jerry Hicks. And remember, until next time, stay awake, but dare to dream. Good night, everybody. How? Yeah. That's right. Stay strong, everybody. We'll see you all next time. Until Saturday night. Good night, everybody.
Things are better left unknown, and I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonder.